Welcome to Inside Personal Growth Podcast. Deep dive with us as we unlock the secrets to personal development, empowering you to thrive. Here, growth isn't just a goal, it's a journey. Tune in, transform, and take your life to the next level by listening to just one of our podcasts. Well, welcome back to Inside Personal Growth. This is Greg Voisin, the host of Inside Personal Growth. And joining us from Solana Beach, California, which is literally only about 3 miles from where I am in Encinitas, is Brian Tracy. Brian Tracy is the consummate speaker. He is the founder of Brian Tracy International and the author of how many books did you say? 93?
That's down 94.
94. So for all of you who are listening out there, you probably don't need an introduction to Brian, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. Brian, good day to you. Thanks for being on the podcast show. And we're going to be talking about a brand new book, The 32 Unbreakable Laws of Money and Success. This is a Barrett Kohler book. And I told him that I found this book on my shelf because he has 92. So I only am 97 away goals, which will be covered inside this interview that we're having with Brian today. But Brian, let me let the listeners know a tad about you for those who may not know who you are. He's the chairman and CEO of Brian Tracy International, company specializing in training and development of individual organizations. Brian's goal, there we go, is to help you achieve your personal and business goals faster and easier than you ever imagined. And that is his purpose as well, I can tell you. Brian's consulted more than 1,000 companies and addressed more than 5 million people and 5,000 talks and seminars throughout the U.S., Canada, and 70 other countries worldwide. As a keynote speaker and seminar leader, he addresses more than 250,000 people each year. He's studied, researched, written, and spoken for 30 years in the field of economics, history, business, philosophy, and psychology. He's a top-selling author of over 94 books, which have been translated into dozens of languages. He's written and produced more than 30 audio and video learning programs, including worldwide best-selling The Psychology of Achievement, which has been translated in more than 28 languages. He's traveled and worked over 107 countries in 6 continents and speaks in 4 languages. He's happily married and has 4 children. And as I said, he resides in Solana Beach, California, one of the most beautiful spots in the world, if I do say so myself. And so, Brian, because we want to give the listeners as much as we can of you and as little as possible of me, why don't we start off with this? Change, transformation is something that people can be very resilient to. And in the introduction, you emphasize the importance of changing. The most important thing in one's life is their thinking. Can you share a pivotal moment when changing your thinking led to some considerable breakthrough for you? Because we're talking about fundamentally changing people's thinking. That's how they get out of where they are and move to someplace better.
Well, I've been studying success for my whole life. And one of the answers to that question is I always thought time management was a peripheral skill, like riding a bicycle or shooting with a bow and arrow. It's just something you did occasionally. And then I had this epiphany, this eye-opening discovery that time management is central. It is the central skill of your life, that all of your life is the way you manage time. It's the most important single determinant of your success. And so what I did is I began to study time as a critical ingredient of success, and it changed my life forever. I began to plan my days. I began to use my time better. I began to read everything I could on it. And then I wrote a book called Eat That Frog, 21 Great Ways to Stop Procrastinating and Get More Things Done Faster. The book sold 5 million copies in 55 languages because it seems that everybody out there wants to learn how to manage their time and to get on with it, to do the things that they need to do to be successful. That was my discovery, that without good time management, you have no chance. But with good time management, you can accomplish vastly more than the average person.
So what did you do, Brian, to get focus and not distraction? I mean, in the world in which we live today, we all have technology, we have social media, we've got every different way to kind of actually be with each other and connect with each other, but there's these distractions from us getting done what our main purpose and goal in life might be. What would you tell people about moving away from those distractions?
Well, the most important quality for success, identified for more than 2,000 years, is the quality of self-discipline. Is the amount of self-discipline you have is largely going to determine the quality of your life in every area. And I always think of Nancy Reagan's campaign when she was the wife of the president, when there were a lot of problems with drugs in the schools. And she came up with this campaign called Just Say No. Just say no. And I asked my kids about this, and they said, we just say no to drugs. And I laughed at that. And I said, well, holy smokes, that's the key to self-discipline. The key to self-discipline is to just say no to low-value tasks. If you plan a day and you make a list of things that you have to do, and you ask the question, if I could only do one thing on this list before I was called out of town for a month, what would be the most valuable thing that I could do for myself and my business? And that answer will jump out at you off the page. Then what you do is you just say no to anything that is not that one thing that will contribute more to your life immediately than anything else. Successful people are people who have a reputation for just saying no to the irrelevant tasks and getting the job done. So someone once said, I love it, is that the best ability in business is dependability, is have the ability to say no to low value tasks and work single-mindedly on your most important tasks until they're complete, and not 95% complete, which is what most people do if they get that far. And then they just sort of take a break and they'll finish it tomorrow and they don't do it next week. It's called task completion. It's one of the things I write about in the book.
So important. I mean, look, you brought up, just if people just took that away from this podcast, they're taking away something important. And this book is broken down into these 32 laws, and one of the laws is the law of causality. And you describe the law of causality as the foundation of reasoning and success. How can individuals that are out there listening today to this podcast with you speaking with them practically apply this law to overcome any setbacks and achieve their goals?
Well, the law of causality was first adumbrated, if they say, by Aristotle in 350 BC at his academy outside of Athens. And at a time when people believed in the gods on Mount Olympus and miracles and all kinds of things, he said, no. He said, that's not possible. We live in a world governed by order, and therefore everything happens for a reason. Our job to master our lives and our world is to find out the reasons for the things that we want to have and to accomplish, and then to duplicate those reasons and improve on them. So this is the law of causality. We call it the law of cause and effect. We call it the law of sowing and reaping, is you get out what you put in and so on. The world is full of people, 80% of the population, God bless them, are thinking that it's possible to put in one thing and get out something else. It's sort of like planting seeds in the garden. When you plant a seed, nature grows the seed, but people are planting weeds or nothing and expecting to get a wonderful crop. So the seeds you plant in your mind, the thoughts, the plans, the goals, the desires, the focus, and so on, totally determine what happens to you in life. And one of the things that I say, if you want to be successful, and everybody who's listening to this wants to be financially successful, then what you do is you find financially successful people and you study them and you do what they did. And you find that successful people get up early and they work harder and they stay later and they use their time well and they don't make excuses and they're continually learning. They're basically learning machines. They're constantly taking in new information so they can do what they need to do better and faster. If you want to be successful, you just have the formula. That is a good formula. Now,
there is something about contribution and compensation. And
Yes.
I want to say that, we all make a contribution. The key is how much of a contribution do we make? So in this law of compensation, you suggest that we're compensated, however that might be, intrinsically, extrinsically, in proportion to our contributions, meaning what we give, what our value is that we bring to something. What strategies would you recommend for someone looking to increase their value and contributions in their professional life? Now, you said many of them just a second ago. Study hard, read, be curious, work harder, longer hours. Those are all big contributions. Is there anything else you want to add to the list of being a better contribution?
Well, you have to understand that the number one word in your life is results, results, results. People don't care about your talk and your good intentions. As they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. They care about your results. So let us imagine that you work for a company. Well, here's a simple strategy that just was like a slap in the face to me when I heard it, is write down the things that you think you're expected to do and take them to your boss. And after your boss, organize them by priority. Of these things that I do, which are the most important to you and in what order, and how will you measure that they are done well for you? Please tell me so that I know exactly what to do to make you happy. You and I are in the happiness business. I remember Tony Hsieh, who started Zappos, and he said, we are in the happiness business. We just happen to sell shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
We're in the happiness business in that we are successful to the degree to which we make other people happy, starting with our bosses. That's how you get promoted. And how do we make your boss happy? By you getting results that help your boss to do his or her job better. Then we start our own business, and the number one goal in our business is to make our customers and potential customers happy. And I have this idea of writing a book, and I may write it called the Factor, E-R, the Factor. And so if you want to be successful in a competitive world, you have to make your customers happier. You have to offer your services faster. You have to do it better, cheaper. It's always the factor. It's always a comparison between you and your competitor. You're always looking for ways to make people happier. And that's really the key to success.
I would agree with you on the part. And the reason is because we're going to talk about control here in this next situation. And what I've always said, Brian, and I think you will resonate it, if you're looking for something outside of yourself to make you happy, you're looking in the wrong place. The happiness is an inside job. Once you fix the inside, the outside fixes. So the reality is, if you say, well, it's my spouse, or it's a new car, or it's more money, that's really not the thing that makes you happy. What makes you happy is the achievement of obtaining that thing, the journey to actually getting there. So let's talk about control. You mentioned that feelings of control, and I just had an author on from Canada that wrote a book called Hardiness, and it's all about control and commitment, and he's a psychologist. And the reality is that in the world we're living in today, it's crucial for happiness and success. We feel, meaning there's a lot of people out there that I think feel today that they can't predict the future, that they are uncertain. And that feeling of not being in control is a bit scary. I would venture that to say. What are some practical steps individuals can use to take control over their personal and professional lives, from Brian Tracy to your lips and mine?
Well, the number one goal, again, going back to Aristotle, of all human beings is to be happy. And everything that we do is an attempt to be happier than we were before. Nobody ever consciously does something to make them less happy. We always think that if we do this, it'll make us happier. And the number one obstacle to happiness is negative emotions. And negative emotions always come, and I spent 4,000 hours studying this over a period of years. Some of the research on this is absolutely fabulous. It's the foundation of all of modern psychology. It's basically this, is that negative emotions come from blaming. Negative emotions come from accusing or blaming someone or something else for things that you are unhappy with in your own life. The key, and to summarize and cut right to the chase, the key to becoming happy is to say the magic words, I am responsible. I am responsible. My friend Mark Victor Hansen says that whenever you have a negative thought, he said you should do cancel, and go with an X.
Yeah.
Cross it out. Cancel. And the way that you cancel out negative thoughts is by simply saying, I'm responsible. I'm responsible. Now, the major reason for negative emotions is blame. And blame comes from accusing someone else of being responsible for something in your life that you're not happy with. One of the great rules of life, Greg, is never become upset about something you can't change. Never become upset about something you can't change. And you cannot change a past event. And 80% of the population and all the people who visit psychologists and therapists and coaches and counselors and everything else are people who go there to talk about past events that they still haven't come to terms with. What you need to do is let it go. Just let it go. Just say the words, I let it go. And you have no negative emotion because there's nothing you can do about it. And once you let it go, the nature abhors a vacuum, even in emotions. So if you let go of your negative emotions, your mind fills with positive emotions, and you feel happy, and you feel powerful. Now, and you just held up my book on goals. One of the things, another turning point in my life is I thought goals were a peripheral thing. What I found was that your ability to set and achieve goals are the center of your life. Without that, you're basically taking orders from other people. So when you set goals and you work on your goals step by step, it makes you happy. It gives you a sense of power. It gives you a sense of empowerment. You feel energized. And of course, we talked about the psychologist William Glasser, who talks about developing a positive addiction. Every time you make progress toward a goal that's important to you, you feel happy. It releases endorphins and dopamines. It gives you strength. It motivates you to do even more things. So you'll find that people who are working happily on things that are important to them and getting better and better at doing it are happy all the time.
Well, and the thing that you emphasized here, and not to be a broken record, but once you learn to take 100% responsibility for yourself and quit blaming others, you mentioned that early, and know that you are the one that is in, you then realize you are in control, right? These two go together, happiness and this. Now, one of the things that a lot of people look for and continue to look for, and for some people it eludes them all their life, and for others, they have an ability for manifestation and attraction, and that is financial independence. So financial independence is a key goal for many people. Now, there'd be some people that would write their goals and maybe they're not so concerned about financial independence, or they're already financially independent. What initial steps do you suggest for someone starting the journey toward financial independence, and how would you advise them or help them see how they can become more financially independent?
Well, when I was in my 30s, I still remember I was walking down the street and I'd always dreamed and fantasized about being a millionaire. I wanted to be a millionaire. I was from the time I was a teenager. And here I was, 35, 20 years of experience, and still living from paycheck to paycheck. And I realized I'd talked about and thought about being a millionaire, but I had never made a decision to become a millionaire. And there's something about making a decision. It's like pushing down on a dynamite detonator. It goes boom in your subconscious and superconscious mind, and things start to happen. In my book that you just held up, I have this phrase, because things just happen. Things that you cannot predict that happen after you've made the decision. So first thing you do is you say, I want to become a self-made millionaire. Well, the simplest of all ways is to save your money and invest it carefully and let it grow and accumulate until your money working is earning more than you are working. That's the standard way of doing it, We now have 38 million self-made millionaires in America. Most of them get there by the age of about 50 to 54, according to Wall Street Journal. And it's a result of somebody working hard, saving their money, investing it carefully. Warren Buffett was once asked, what's his secret to financial success? He said, it's simple. He said, I invest in the American stock market and depend on compound interest. And that's one of the laws we talk about. Compound interest. Albert Einstein said, compound interest is the eighth power of the universe. It's the eighth wonder of the world because it just causes money to grow and grow and grow. So anybody, and I was giving a seminar, and one of the young guys came up to me, and he was obviously had problems, and he said to me, Mr. Tracy, he said, I'm a bellman for a hotel. He said, can I become a millionaire too? And I didn't know what to say. And then he went on speaking. He said, I live in a group home, he said, and they invest $100 a month from my income in a fund. If I do that all the time I work, will I become a millionaire? Well, I just happen to have been working on compound interest tables, and I knew if you invested $100 a month from the age of 21 to the age of 65, and just compounded at the normal rate of the stock market, good years and bad years, you'd be worth more than $1 million. This young guy with nothing going for him, is going to become a millionaire because he's got good people advising him, and he's going to end up his life rich when the great majority of people have retire with an average net worth of $41,000. This young guy is going to be worth $1 million. And why? Because he's dependent upon working hard, saving, and the miracle of compound interest. So everybody can do it. Anybody can do it. Now, if you want to do it even better, then what you do is you become better at your work so that you're paid more. And then you save more and more. You start off maybe with 1%, then 2%, then 10%, then 20%. I know people who started off and then they were sat down with their new wife, and they said, let's save 20% of our income. And by gum, they did. And in a few years, they started to become more and more financially independent. And by the time they're in their 40s, they're worth more than $1 million a home.
Yeah. It is, I love the other day I happened to be listening to a podcast with Jordan Peterson. You might know who he is, a famous psychologist. And he was talking about the sacrifices we make with our contract to the future. So our contract with the future is whether it's with our employer, like this young man putting $100 in a 401k plan or whatever it is, to say that's my contract with the future is to be able to be a millionaire or to have enough money to be financially independent. The sacrifices that I make are the sacrifices I make for that contract with the future, which is to work hard as a bellman or to work hard in whatever it is that you're doing, because you are giving of your time for that contract in the future. Any comment about that? What do you think of that?
I think that's wonderful. One of the laws of success is called the law of futurity. And what it means is that successful people think about the future most of the time. In my book and in your review of it, we talk about you become what you think about most of the time. Successful people think about the future. They think about what they're doing today and what effect that will have on the future. But also they think about what other effect it will have. What will be the consequences? What will be the additional consequences? Will they be good consequences or bad consequences? But they think about the future most of the time. It is the characteristic of leaders in every part of life is they're future oriented. And so as Jordan Peterson says, it's very, very important because when you're clear about the future, it makes it much easier to make the best decisions in the present. If you have no idea about your future, then you'll try this and that. You'll try this and you'll try that, and half the things won't work out. But when you have what I've done in my career is I fell in love with strategic planning, and it's a wonderful story, but basically I did it for $1 billion corporation. The first strategic plan I did was for $1 billion multinational corporation, and they loved the program. How did I learn to do it? I bought all the books on strategic planning and put together a synthesis of all the best ideas and then conducted a 3-day strategic planning program. And after that, I've done it for 1,000 companies over the years, foundations and so on. What I found is that the premises are the same, is that if you have a strategic plan, and every one of my clients says, this has been the best 3 days in the history of this company.
Well, and I want to make a point. You know, you have a workbook. I don't know if people can still get it at your website, but I know I have it. That whole strategic thing. No, you said $1 billion company. I don't care if you're a $100,000 company. You need a strategic plan. Part of the work that I do is I help people create strategic plans, just like you did for the big company. But I don't discriminate against the size. I say, hey, no matter what you do, you need forecasts, you need predictions, you need to look at all the elements of your business to put it together. And you do a wonderful job of that. And this leads me to one of the laws, and it's called the Law of Belief. Okay? Now, we all run around with a lot of beliefs in our head, Brian, as you know. That doesn't mean that they're all founded, meaning they're fruitful, they're true. Okay? Beliefs can change. I don't believe knowings change. You either have a knowing or you have a belief. I know that if I talk to you long enough, you could probably change my belief about something because I trust you. I trust you as an individual. I trust your knowledge. How can individuals overcome, quote, self-limiting beliefs that hinder their progress? Because those are the ones that they're the beliefs that you need to replace with alternative beliefs if you're carrying those self-limiting beliefs.
Well, I am a fanatic on goals, but especially on written goals. And you and I have had this debate and debated with other people. They say, well, I have my goals in my mind, or I have my goals on my computer, or so on. What they have found, and this is the great word, it's called a psychoneuromotor activity, which is writing your goals down,
right,
present tense. And every person, every expert in this field says, write the goals down by hand in the present tense. And do that over and over. And what happens is when you write something down, it's accepted by the superconscious mind as a command. And at the beginning, it will say, nah, that's not possible. You can't do that. You look at your past. You're coming from a poor background and so on. But you just keep writing it down every day. You write down your goals in the present tense. I teach people this 10-goal method is take out a spiral notebook and write down 10 goals every morning without looking back at the previous day. And do this every day for a month. And every person I've ever taught it to and tracked it has doubled and tripled their income within 30 days. They're just literally astonished at what happens in their whole life. They start to attract into their life people and circumstances and ideas and books. I've had people say, I was in the bookstore and this book from yours, Tracy, at the bottom shelf, fell out on my foot. And I read the book and I became one of the top salespeople in the country within 12 months. And if I hadn't been for that book, and that's what happens, is you don't have to worry about what's going to happen. All you have to do is be clear. So that's a word that we teach.
Well, and I agree with you on this as well. And now while you're talking about attraction, right, I want to, because there's a few misnomers, I believe, that probably still exist about, hey, if I stick this here, I'm going to attract it. Well, you can't attract anything without action. And as far as I'm concerned, meaning you have to apply. You can write all these goals you want down on a piece of paper, but the reality is you need to work toward them. You need to take action toward them. Can you share a personal story, and I think you've got many, where this law played a significant role in your own personal success? We're now talking about the law of attraction.
Well, I remember the first big breakthrough in my life is I decided to get into real estate development. And I didn't know anything about real estate development. I didn't even know if it had an E after the P or not. And so I went and I began to read books. That's the one thing I've always had is a love of reading. I began to read books on how you find property to develop and whether it's on the right side of the street, the go-home side, or the go to work side and communities that are growing and so on. And I finally found a piece of property, but I didn't have any money. And I met with the owners, and they had a 5-acre trailer park, motorhome park, and the city was growing up around them, and it was a perfect place for a shopping center, because I'd read the books. Well, what happened was they invited me to meet with their lawyer. I still remember him, and he said, look, I'll draw up an agreement where you can buy this piece of property. I'll give you 30 days to close on it. And I said, I'll give you a check for $150. It's a $5 million piece of property. He said,
$150.
He said, I'll hold the check. I said, please don't deposit it. Yes, and I still remember him. He said, get them out of this. The property's too much for them. So I put together a complete proposal based on all my stuff, and I went around to real estate development companies, and I finally found one that said, if everything you say is true, we'll come in with 100% of the money, and we'll take 75% of the shopping center, and you'll be responsible for completing it. And so I did, and I put myself under their control, and I developed the shopping center. I built it. I got the architects and the engineers and the construction companies. They paid all the bills. We built it. I leased out all the properties to the absolute, and it was 100% full on the opening date. And the owner of the company, who's worth almost $1 billion, came to the opening, and he said afterwards, he said, would you like to come and work for me? And he hired me as his personal assistant, and I worked for him for almost 2 years before he sold his business, and it was the greatest experience in my life. I developed tens of millions of dollars worth of real estate with him, and under his tutelage, I imported $25 million worth of vehicles from Japan and sold them. I built office buildings and subdivisions. It was the most incredible thing, and it all happened by just moving forward. Just keep moving forward, and stuff happens. That's the most wonderful.
Well, you used your creativity and your knowledge, and here's the thing: if you didn't have the knowledge, you basically read a book or looked it up or found an answer or found someone who knew the answer, but you kept searching. So you were constantly curious, and that leads me to this question: the law of superconscious activity. Now, we talk about our subconscious, we talk about our conscious, we talk about our unconscious, and then we're talking about superconsciousness. And I remember you telling me when I was at your house with this book, and you pointed out this law and how important it is. What techniques do you recommend for tapping into superconsciousness to help one manifest their goals and their desires and their dreams?
Well, when I discovered the superconscious many years ago, 40 years ago, taking a special course in a distant town near the river with a teacher, and he talked about the superconscious, and I'd never heard about it before. So I did a full court press on studying the superconscious. And what I found is that everyone has this incredible mental power. And an analogy that I use is, imagine that you bought a house and you moved into the house, and you didn't realize, but downstairs there was a basement. You found the door, entry to the basement, and inside was this supercomputer that was connected to all the
I love it.
You turned the lights on, and there it was, and all you had to do was put in any question, problem, goal, desire, activity, and this supercomputer would put everything together. It would attract into your life everything you needed to make it possible. Well, that's what each person has, and every successful person, all original works of art, music, design, literature, all original works are superconscious works. They came from something outside of themselves. People who are great writers and poets, they find themselves sort of under a trance. They just write sort of, what do they call it, free writing or free flowing? Well,
right.
Everyone has this superconscious ability. And if I could only talk about one thing for the rest of my life, it would be about how you tap into it. And the critical thing is goals. When you have a very clear, specific, written goal, And what I told it, well, here's something very simple. Change your life forever, guaranteed. Decide, imagine you have a magic wand and you could achieve any one goal in the whole world. Within, don't be insane. Like you can't fly with your flapping your arms and things like that. You can't be a billionaire in 25 minutes. I mean, don't be ridiculous. The goal has to be something that you believe is possible for you. So don't set goals that are impossible. Set a goal that you believe is possible. Becoming a millionaire? Good grief. We've got 40 million millionaires in America today. Somebody becomes a millionaire every 3 minutes. So that obviously is an achievable goal. Then you say, make a list of what I call the 20 answer list. Is what could I do to achieve this goal? And write down 20 answers. Now, not 10 and not 12 and not 15. It's got to be 20 because very often, and I've done this with larger classes, very often it's the 20th answer that explodes your life. It's an answer you never thought of before, and it changes your life completely. You change your career, you change your relationship, you change your business, you change something. If you do this exercise, one thing, magic wand, you can achieve any one goal and write down 20 ways to achieve the goal, and then pick one of those ways and start working on it. And the one that you start working on, it'll jump out at you. It'll just jump out at you. And start working on that, and your life will change forever. If you just did that. There's everything else you can do.
I love your analogy about the computer and turning on the lights in the basement. It basically does that, because today we live in this world of augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and to a certain degree that is happening. And we can today more than ever achieve more in less time than we ever did before because of the things that are going on. I want to let my listeners know that the 32 Unbreakable Laws of Money and Success is a book you'll want to pick up. This is a Barrett Kohler book. We're going to put a link on it to Amazon, so you'll actually have a link to that. I would also recommend 2 other books of Brian's. One, Get Goals, and Get Eat That Frog. If there were 3 books you wanted to change your life, if you didn't have any other 3 books, do get this one. This is brand new. This is just coming out. And he actually is writing a revised edition of the Goals book, which is going to be coming out pretty soon. I think you said September. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, the reality is, go to his website. The website for Brian is briantracy.com. There you can see Brian Tracy International, contact, meet the team, testimonials, all kinds of free resources. He's got courses. He's got all kinds of things. And if you sign up for his goals sheet, I know this because he and I were talking about it, you literally will get this 14 traits for setting these goals, right? Action plan. And it comes to you for free. And I'm going to encourage you to go to those free resources and sign up for that, because it is really good. And then take that and utilize it. And then he's got a course that goes along with it. And you'll be reminded in the course, by the way, if I remember correct, was like $133 value for like $30 or something like that. It's about the third the cost. If you're really in the position right now and you want to change your life, and I know we're into May already, 5 months. Most people say, well, I set my goals in January. Well, they change as you go along, and they need to be re-looked at and reevaluated all the time. And so I'd recommend Brian's course, his book. Brian, it's been a pleasure having you on Insight Personal Growth. Any last words of wisdom you would like to leave to our listeners?
Well, something I've taught my children, and it's probably the most important piece of advice, is that you can do it. Anything that you decide upon, you can achieve. If it's within reason, you have more possibilities. You have more talent than you could use in 100 lifetimes. There are no limits on what you can accomplish except the limits you place on your own mind. And the way that you break those chains of limits is you write down what you want clearly on a piece of paper, and then make a list of the things that you could think of to do right now, and then take action. Just like you said, nothing happens until something moves. Nothing happens if you take action. But if you'll take action, it will trigger more action, and more action, it'll activate the law of attraction, It'll activate the law of superconscious abilities, and what can happen to you is literally phenomenal. And I know because I've spoken to countless people all over the world, and they say when you start to tap into your own mental powers, the things you can accomplish are beyond your imagination.
Well, you certainly not only live what you speak about because you're a testament to it. And for all those people, if you just look at the body of work that Brian Tracy has created over the years that he's been on this planet, a huge contribution to helping people find a way to achieve their goals with less effort and also at the same time with more success. And Brian, my hat goes off to you, to everything that you've done, the contributions you've made in the world and what you're doing, to all the courses you've created, the books you've written, and the millions of people that you've talked to from stages live to actually inspire them to do this. Again, do go out and get this book. This is, Brian's got sometimes these limited time offers. And one of them is on that goal thing. When you go to his website, you don't have a long time to do it for the reduced price. So take advantage of that. But Brian, thanks for being on Inside Personal Growth. It's always a pleasure speaking with you and having you back on the show. It was way too long. The last time I had him on the show was podcast number, I think it was 87, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm now at podcast 1117. So we waited way too long in between. It's going to be more frequent that we have Brian back as a guest. So thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Greg. You are doing great work in the world, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this podcast on Inside Personal Growth. We appreciate your support. And for more information about new podcasts, please go to InsidePersonalGrowth.com or any of your favorite channels to listen to our podcast. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day.